Next, I'd like to turn to Martin Brechbiel, who's going to continue building it in the scratch building corner. So Martin, welcome.
Gosh, spotlighted me and I'm staring at myself. It's frightening. Terrible visage. It's almost as bad as my gnome back there. Okay, so let's see where we're at. Okay. I think that's got it. And last week, that's where we stopped, sort of, kind of, maybe, if anybody remembers. We were just putting the roof on the building, or the sheathing for the roof, actually. We'll put an actual roof on it later. So it's all buttoned up now. It's just 3x22 and 3x18 and HO, actually on an O-scale building. But it's just glued down with some carpenter's glue, upper roof and a lower roof. And there's the lower roof in the back. You can see, remember we mortised this little bit out around the corner post so to fit up nice and tight. Well, best to pre-paint things. So we have our door and 2 windows. It's just a standard T-sheet parts. Just quick slap a coat of, I'm not sure what that is, red oxide or oxide red. I'm guessing polyscale. I mean, I'm still using polyscale along with the rest of the dinosaurs, but it works okay as long as I still have it. And the nice thing about T-sheet is they give you laser cut glazing and some curtain material in the back. It's all fits neatly in so one of the things I really hate is putting glazing into windows, cutting individual little pieces of plastic or glass and putting them into the slot just the right size. You don't have more than about 1 millimeter, or you have less than 1 millimeter on each side all the way around for that glazing to fit in there. So it's easy to make it too small or too big several times and end up throwing it away and making it again. But I just wish everybody who sold plastic castings of doors and windows would take the time to laser cut out some glazing and some curtains or some blinds or whatever. It's really a delight to not have to cut your own. Of course, if you like cutting your own, have at it. I still use glass occasionally. Okay, so we're going to take a side trip down the other side. This is not wood, for anybody who didn't figure that out already. This is brass. So I decided we needed a smokestack on the one side, or a smoke jack, or from a stove or something, some heating implement on the inside. So we'll just make that out of these 4 pieces. It's 2 pieces of brass tubing, just a little bit over 1/8 of an inch diameter brass tubing, some 10,000 scrap brass flat stuff, which I've snipped off a piece of it with just a pair of scissors. Heavy, I have some fairly heavy scissors laying about. Put a U-bend in it. These are our 4 parts for making a smoke jack. It's not terribly hard to do. And odds are you only burn yourself a little bit. This is the type of thing I use for setting up for doing soldering of small parts in odd shapes and things. I have these 2 clamps, stand clamps. I have 6 or 8 or 10 hemostats that will lock onto all kinds of good things. And in this case, they hold the tubing just perfectly. Let me back up a little bit. You can see right here on this one piece of tubing, there's actually, it's rounded. It's easy, that's to sort of accept the one side of this. That is rounded over with just a round file. It takes a few minutes, seconds really. It's soft brass and a good sharp file, and you've got a rounded over cavity which fits right up against the brass, and you can see it fits pretty snugly. And I just, rather than try to hold stuff with my hands, Uh, Particularly if it's small stuff. I'm using hemostats. I'm using these stands. It lets me position everything exactly where I want it. And then I don't have to touch it again. Those are pretty heavy stands. They're not going to go anywhere. I use a Ruby Flux, liquid Ruby Flux. My machinist where I used to work gave me about 10, oh gosh, more than 10 years ago. I've still got about a quart of it left. And I'm using 15 thousandths solder. It's pretty fine solder. I don't even know where you buy that anymore. My other machinist that I still work with basically filled my ear with the cost of solder nowadays. And so I'm delighted that I have a big roll of the 15,000 stuff. So I don't know how to replace it or where to replace it or what it costs, but it doesn't seem cheap. And I'm using a torch as opposed to a iron. I like this little torch. It's cheap. It's under 20 bucks. Home Depot, Amazon, what have you. And you has a click start and a lock on and a variable control on the flame. And a quick pass after the flux has been sitting on for a little bit, and just touch it with the solder and you have a joint done. And I didn't even have to clean this one up. So I lucked out and actually did a decently clean job the first try. So that's not, this is how I do almost all my soldering work. I try not to hold stuff with one hand, hold the solder with another, hold the torch with my third hand. And, I'm not big on appendage mutation. I try to avoid that. So lots of clamps that you can never have too many. Hemostats, they're great. And if you have some kind of clamp stand to hold them in place, 2 or 3 of those around your shop, you can't go wrong. So I like to I'll position 5, 6, 8 pieces, an entire handrail assembly, get it all positioned, flux added, just zap it with the torch and touch it with the solder, done. But don't touch it again until it's nice and cool. And here's what we get. I left out the 5th part. The 5th part is a small brass washer. So you need a flange, mounting flange. So this joint's soldered here. That large piece of brass is capping off the bottom of this. This top piece was folded over, gets clamped with a hemostat, heat it up, drop the solder in the joints, all done. And you get something that looks like this. Takes, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. It's a quick and easy way to build one, and you don't have any trouble running around buying what you want. If you want something a half an inch taller, a half an inch shorter, or an inch further out from the building, what have you, you build it custom to what you need right then and there, and it gets done in a matter of minutes. This is not, this is a very easy thing to do. And the little torch I think makes it easier than with an iron. Because with the iron, you're actually having to almost touch everything, and you don't want to disturb it. This way the only thing that touches it is liquid solder. I'm stopping there for this week because obviously I've run out of slides, so I must be stopping here. So like I said, these are going to be quick, easy, short things, but a quick little thing on soldering. I'll show you something a little more painful to solder next week. Well, then I'm not going to show you all the details of it either because it was too painful.
Martin, I for one am glad you used the sorter as an example this time, because the way that you did it, it shows how easy it is. It's not that complicated. Flux is the key to it. You get the flux right, the rest of it just falls together. It's just like once the flux is on the brass, the rest of it is like putting glue on it. Yeah,
and I said I like the torch. Positioning is the other part. You want clean and everybody like clean flux, but getting it right where you want it. Stop. Don't mess with it anymore. Hit it with the torch. Be done with it. Move on. Because if you mess with it, you're going to mess it up probably. So get it right. Hit it and hit the solder on it. Walk away because you've got before you do something wrong.
Look forward to next week, Martin. Thank you so much.
All righty.